The Colour Purple follows Celie, a young girl living in Georgia with her sister Nettie and her father, who regularly beats and rapes her, impregnates her with 2 of his children, forces her to marry a bloke called Mr. Johnson, played by Danny Glover, who turns out to be an even more abusive bellend than her old man. A happy picture!
What you doing that for?
The years go by and Celie eventually grows up to become Whoopi Goldberg, still putting up with the abuse, confiding in and then falling in love with her husband's mistress Shug. Not that one. Shut up! Played by Margaret Avery, all while clinging onto the hopes of reuniting with her sister in Africa.
Today was a peculiar day.
Development for the film began in 1983 when producers John Peters and Peter Guber came across the 1982 novel of the same name and instantly wanted to produce a film adaptation. The author, Alice Walker, was extremely reluctant to sell the film rights to her book, but eventually accepted to do so after consulting with friends, who all agreed that the only way to increase minority representation in Hollywood was to work within the system. She agreed to sell Peters and Gruber the rights to her book on certain conditions. She would be present on set as a consultant, and that 50% of the production team would consist of either females, African Americans, or members of a minority group. Walker initially wrote a draft of the screenplay herself, but this was largely rewritten by Menno Majors, though Walker would do some uncredited script doctoring and was granted final approval of the screenplay before production could begin. Music legend Quincy Jones was also signed on to both produce and compose the musical score for the film, and he then approached Steven Spielberg to direct. However, he was very insecure about being director of the film, feeling that it should have been directed by a black filmmaker who would have been more familiar with the struggles the characters faced, and he actually turned down the job at first. Jones then responded, "No, I want you to do it, and besides, did you have to be an alien to direct E.T.?
I don't know.
Walker herself was initially skeptical about Spielberg directing the picture, but she was eventually convinced after watching E.T., reassured that Steven would approach the book sensitively and respectfully. When it came to casting, Walker insisted that they consist of lesser-known character actors as opposed to big-name stars, as she felt their rise from obscurity would accurately represent the experience of the novel's characters. Whoopi Goldberg was largely a comedic stage performer at the time, and only had 1 feature film credit to her name, but after seeing her one-woman show on Broadway, Walker hand-picked her for the role of Celie. And thank God, she truly capitalized on the success of this film with the hit feature The Telephone.
You ain't got it in you to understand.
Similarly, Oprah Winfrey was working as a radio presenter at the time and had no acting experience whatsoever. But Quincy Jones insisted that she try out for the role of Sophia, and she eventually won the part. For the role of Shug, Spielberg felt the role should be played by an actual singer and sought out Chaka Khan, Tina Turner, and Diana Ross, but they all turned him down. Patti LaBelle and Cheryl Lee Ralph both auditioned, but neither got the role until Margaret Avery was finally selected. Filming began in the summer of 1984 in South Carolina before moving to Kenya to shoot the final scenes. Unfortunately, upon viewing a rough cut of the film, Alice Walker was horrified with what she saw, feeling as though the filmmakers had completely butchered her source. However, when she rewatched the movie at its premiere and saw how positively the audience was reacting, she warmed up to the film, saying that though it differs drastically from the book, she still likes it very much.
You has my sympathy.
The Colour Purple was released on December the 18th, 1985 and was a box office success, grossing $98 million worldwide and receiving mostly positive reviews, particularly for its performances, direction and screenplay. However, the film was also met with significant controversy, as many felt that the tone was far too sentimental in comparison to the novel, and that the movie presented a very stereotypical view of black people, particularly men. Many also took issue with Spielberg downplaying the lesbian relationship between Celie and Shug, which was much more prominent in the book. Spielberg himself responded to the controversy by saying, "Most of the criticism came from directors who felt that we had overlooked them, and that it should have been a black director telling a black story. The other criticism was that I had softened the book. I have always copped to that. I made the movie I wanted to make from Alice Walker's book. There were certain things in the relationship between Shug Avery and Celie that were finely detailed in Alice's book that I didn't feel could get a PG-13 rating, and I was shy about it. In that sense, perhaps I was the wrong director to acquit some of the more sexually honest encounters between Shug and Celie, because I did soften those. I basically took something that was extremely erotic and very intentional, and I reduced it to a simple kiss. I got a lot of criticism for that."
Oh, come on!
However, the cast defended both the film and Spielberg, arguing that many of the criticisms were unfounded, including Whoopi Goldberg. We got a lot of shit from a lot of people and from a lot of folks at the NAACP. How dare Steven Steven Spielberg make this movie, I was really pissed off. I thought, well, why didn't you make the movie? Steven wanted to make the movie and he did a damn fine job. Then people were mad that we didn't make it like the book exactly, but like, it was 1984. No one was gonna let me and Suge make out. Oprah Winfrey claimed, it's one woman's story. It was not meant to be the history of every black man or woman in this country, and I wish they'd just shut up about it. Oliver Stone was also among the film's defenders, saying, it's an excellent movie, and it was an attempt to deal with an issue that had been overlooked, and it wouldn't have been done if it hadn't been Spielberg. And it's not like everyone says that he ruined the book. That's horse shit. Nobody was going to do the book. He made the book live again.
What did you say?
The film went on to be nominated for 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, but amazingly didn't win a single one, tying with 1977's The Turning Point for the most Oscar nominations without any wins. Bit of a backhanded record, to be honest.
Why he do that?
Spielberg was initially considered the frontrunner to win Best Director, but he wasn't even nominated. And though Whoopi Goldberg received a Best Actress nod, she ended up losing to Geraldine Page for The Trip to Bountiful, which is widely regarded as one of the worst snubs in the Academy's history. But she did eventually win for Ghost 5 years later, so it's not all bad. In happier news, the movie's continued popularity led to a successful Broadway musical adaptation in 2006, which itself was adapted for film in 2023. And though the movie still garners debate over its depiction of race, it's frequently regarded as a milestone in on-screen black representation. And it also marked a turning point in Spielberg's career, where he would tackle darker dramatic work as opposed to the summer blockbusters he had previously been known for. I mean, straight away, George Lucas should take note on how to shoot a field scene and a labour scene.
Are you having a boy or an abortion?
Ironically, this scene was directed by the assistant director, as Spielberg had to leave the set in an emergency due to the birth of his son. I also want to say that everyone in this movie is a complete dick.
You got the ugliest smile this side of creation.
You sure is ugly.
Gotta love how blunt and to the point everyone is though.
I want to marry your Nettie.
How they casually discuss just giving up their daughters and everything.
She ain't fresh, though, but I expect you know that.
It's Spielberg, so naturally the direction is tremendous. There's some really creative shots that set the standards for later filmmakers, with some amazing lines of dialogue.
You gotta fight, Celie, you got to. I don't know how to fight. All I know how to do is stay alive.
Everything you done to me, already done to you.
Obviously the focal point of the film is the friendship between Celie and her sister Nettie, and it is really sweet as the latter teaches the former to read. They have such a wholesome and cute friendship, while Danny Glover is the biggest and most colossally evil man in movie history. He even rides next to his victim with the creepiest smile ever. Why is he so damn crazy? The first black Joker coming your way. Did I mention that I am evil? I spit on orphans and shit in the mouths of elderly people. He is such an unlikable douchebag and you will beg for him to die. Glover does give a great performance, and it's even more unsettling as he just sees it as somewhat playful while she is terrified for her life. And the acting is tremendous on both sides as they're forced away from one another. Celie's even tempted to slash the prick's throat during a shave. It is so intense. Look, just scream for help. The white man wait, it's 1909. The white man isn't doing shit. For a non-actor, Oprah does a great performance, even if the whole joke is that she's fat.
No, sir, I ain't in no trouble. Big though.
You just a big old heifer.
Who you think you are, you fat nigga?
Yeah, in 1985, that was considered fat. There's actually a speech at a dinner table which was completely ad-libbed by Oprah, which was prompted by Steven Spielberg in the middle of filming the scene. He asked her to express to Celie how she felt that day when she saw Celie in the store as Sophia was shopping for Miss Millie. It's a great performance and really heartfelt. This is a truly strong and powerful piece of film. The humour, yes, there's some humour in there, it's hit and miss.
Now goddamn, Sophia! I come down when I'm getting ready.
Fairly predictable, but still mildly amusing. But other points, it works really well.
I need something to eat. Pies in the pantry, just like women needs to be left alone sometimes. That's why I tell Hoppo out here fussing cousin all the time, leave me alone.
Ain't you gonna get it for me?
Is there something the matter with you?
Whoop, time to go.
They even managed to make domestic abuse funny. Just hear me out. So Celie tells her brother to beat Sophia, but we then cut back and he got his ass kicked. Okay, in this context, that is pretty damn funny. Even as Celie tells her to do it, you can tell that she doesn't mean it. Whoopi's acting is great. She becomes shy and withdrawn, but giggly anytime she attempts to exit her comfort zone and come out of her shell. It's an amazing performance, and unlike other roles that you'd later see her in, you really root for her to break out of all of this. She finds out that her sister is alive, and her acting is tremendous. I have to say, this scene is paced really well, but elsewhere, certain sequences could have been trimmed down a bit. I do think the film slightly outstays its welcome. About an hour in, we get a bar scene which breaks up the film quite nicely, and it inspires Celie to start sticking up for herself. It is a really sweet scene. The makeup is quite subtle to make the characters look slightly older throughout the years too. And hey, they created the obvious twist that the lost loved one really was sending letters this whole time, but they were being kept from their loved one. The pacing is so good. You are begging for her to kill the bastard at this point. Until she gets stopped. No! So when Celie finally stands up for herself, you really feel proud of this character and her journey. To the point the douchebag is quite taken aback by it. But even that scene gets dragged out a bit too long. Jesus, she even has the force! And then it just keeps going and going and going and going.
How'd he die?
On top of me.
Damn, you must be good. Okay, I can't lie. Their reunion at the end is really sweet and wholesome. It's totally deserved. And I like the fact that he doesn't die. He sees them live life and become happy while he's all alone. It's a decent message about how happiness is the best form of revenge. A great message to end a truly classic film. It's not one I've rushed out to see again too many times, but you can't argue the impact it made. It's a tremendous piece of filmmaking.